I don't care. Ruin my asshole at this point.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new offerings from Varga Knives on the ever popular VBR in a new small and a large. And they're not just smaller, shorter blades and longer blades. There's a lot of differences in the ergonomics of the knife, the way the handles are shaped. So this, I think, is going to be a really, really popular model of the VBR. And there's a lot of you out there watching right now that already own VBRs. I'm madly in love with the VBR. I have been since the beginning. And the last version, which I'm going to bring out here for some size comparisons, this was the Mark III, which was the first time that Mark introduced thumb studs into this flipper equation. I've said for the longest time that this is one of the most ergonomic, most comfortable in the hand, medium-sized folders you could get your hands on. I still believe that. It's still one of my absolutely favorite knives. And now you've got a version that's a little bit smaller and a version that's a little bit larger. So if you look at the standard VBR, from the beginning all the way up to the Mark IIIs, you had a 3.5-inch blade. Now you have an option in the L, the large, at a 3.7-inch blade and a 3.25-inch blade. So just a hair smaller, just a hair larger. But one thing I want you to notice is the way the handles look. Take a look at this. So the original VBRs are a little bit chunky, a little bit tall. These are a little tiny bit more slender. It's not a huge difference, but you will notice it if you already own a VBR. It's a little bit slimmer, and it changes the way it feels in the hand just a little bit. So if you have smaller hands and you had an issue with the original VBRs with not getting a good comfortable grip, your fingers will wrap around it more now. It's not that extra little bit of height. So it's going to feel a bit slimmer in the hand. For somebody that has really large hands, the knife is going to feel just a little bit skinnier to you than what you're accustomed to. Now, these two here are Mark's personal prototypes. He did send them out to me because he knows I'm an enormous fan of his designs, and I wanted to kind of play with them, and he wanted to get some feedback. And I'm going to be sending these along to Metal Complex, so be on the lookout in the next week or two or three or whenever he schedules things for his video on these two. Now, having been a longtime VBR owner, I could tell you that this is still one of the absolute best everyday carry knives with a nice action, good detent, nice smooth action, because all of these are made by Riot. Now, you know, with Riot, you're going to get high quality fit and finish. You're going to get amazing actions. You're going to get sharp blades. You're going to get good heat treat, and you're always getting a good value for the money. So let's break down the prices and the selections that you'll have both in the large and in the small. You're going to have choices of OD green micarta. You're going to have carbon fiber, just the standard 2x2 12 carbon fiber here. You're going to have an option also for the dark matter blue from Fat Carbon, which is what this is. And there's also going to be the Lava Flow. And Lava Flow's probably going to be the hottest seller. Everybody loves Lava Flow. It's very, very popular right now. And each of these will be available in righty or lefties. And then there's also going to be a Damasteel version. So any of these other versions I was talking about, so OD Green Micarta 350, standard carbon fiber 355, the dark matter blue fat carbon's 360, the lava flow fat carbon's 360, and if you make the jump up into Damasteel, you're looking at 575. So it's up to you which way you want to fly, but they're all fantastic values for the actual knife that you're getting. Let's go ahead and break out into the TLDW, the too long didn't watch, and we'll start discussing the pros and cons of each one, blow through that quickly, and then I'll give you the specs again, and then we'll get into my review portion, my personal opinion of these knives. Okay, TLDW. I'm going to try to combine both of these because there's really not a real difference between them except for the size. So we'll start with the pros. Number one, this is a sleeker, slightly slimmer knife over the previous versions. So if that's what you've been waiting for, this is going to be the time to jump. You've got a slimmer, sleeker handle and a slimmer, sleeker blade as well. Let me bring out the other one again just so that you can see them side by side. So yes, the original blades are just a little bit taller, a little bit fatter, but the same cutting profile on each of them. Another pro for me is going to be Riot's excellent compound grind. So you have a hollow to flat tip. Very, very sharp. Excellent grinds, excellent finish on those grinds, beautiful belt satin, and then a beautiful horizontal satin on the flats. Another pro is the upgrade into having the titanium pivot collars. Now, it's not really a big deal, but for those that like to customize their knives, you could take the pivot screw out, pop out the pivot ring, anodize it blue or green or purple or whatever you want to do, and have just a little bit of a pop of color in this. Now, if it were me and I got the fat carbon dark matter blue, I would probably want to anodize the pivot collar to match the blue in the carbon fiber. I think that'd be a nice touch. And another positive, the action. As always with Riot, absolutely phenomenal action. Now, I could stand for the detent to be a bit crisper, but as Mark told me, there are going to be some changes from these prototypes to the actual production knives, and one of the changes is going to be a little bit more tension on the lock bar, which should seat the detent ball into the blade a little bit better and give a little bit of a sharper detent. Now, I have no reason to complain about this on its own, but when I compare it to any of the originals, they have a slightly sharper detent than this one does. Not a deal breaker, not a huge thing. Most people are going to be very, very satisfied with how it runs. And I predict that the smaller version is probably going to sell out first. Making our way into the cons. Well, let's be honest, this is a VBR. There really aren't any cons. It's still one of the best overall designs that I've had in my collection in probably the past decade. It is a wonderful, true EDC knife. You could carry these knives every single day and be perfectly happy, not feel like you've overdone it, like with some crazy, fancy, expensive, dressy custom, and you won't feel like the knife that you carried that day is not up for the task at hand. And actually, holding it like this, I am really, really impressed with the size of the forward finger choil on the smaller blade. I can still get my finger in there just as well as on the standard, and there's even a little bit more room on the large. Now, back to cons. Not really any cons. And any tiny little nitpick that I may have is probably being covered in the changes from these prototypes over into the production versions. Now let's talk about those changes. First off, Mark says he's going to be deleting the gear pattern on the back spacer. It's going to go back to being a smooth back spacer, which falls in line with the original design a lot better. I actually really like the gear styled pattern on the back spacer. It's very handsome. I don't think it detracts away from the look of the knife at all. Another thing that he pointed out to me is they're going to change the orientation of the clip ever so slightly. It doesn't change the way it's going to work, but they're going to angle it down. I think he said about 1 degree so that the tip of the clip aligns with this scale screw. That way, visually, it's better balanced. It has a cleaner set of lines to it, so it's purely just for design's sake. This one's almost perfectly lined up, so that's probably only going to change a tiny bit, and that one's going to go down a little bit to line up. So, I mean, really, there's not really that big of a deal. No real issues that I can come up with that need to be changed that are just screaming out. And he says that the blade stops are going to be changed a little bit so that the tip of the blade rests a little bit further into the frame of the knife when it's closed. And they're going to add a little bit of tension to the lock bar, which, as I mentioned earlier, is probably going to give it a bit more of a crisp detent feel. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption, but I promise I will make this very, very brief. I want to thank those of you that have joined and become channel members. You are helping to support the channel and helping to continue the growth. And if you've been considering supporting the channel in any way, shape, or form, because I do not have channel sponsors, I don't shill anybody's products, I don't get paid for anything, I don't do affiliate links, so everything is completely self-funded. If you'd like to help out and watch the channel grow and get more great content coming your way, please do consider becoming a member. Now, what are my thoughts on the knife? Do I think that you absolutely have to get one? Number one, if you already have any of the previous iterations of the VBR, it's probably not an absolute necessity. But if you've ever wished, I wish this was a little bit slimmer, took up a little bit less room in the pocket, or I wish it was a little bit smaller, or I wish it was a little bit larger, then it's very obvious that these are going to be very attractive to you because they're going to give you those changes that you've been wanting. Now, if you do not own any of the previous VBRs, I'm going to go back, just like I said on the original VBR video. This is an EDC knife that you absolutely must have in the collection. It's going to be one of your favorite knives. It's going to be one of your most carried knives. And it's got a wonderful fidgetability to it because the flipper tab is absolutely perfect on these. And it's jimped perfectly so your finger never slides off the flipper tab. And with the addition of the thumb studs, now you can thumb flick, you can reverse flick off the backside with your middle finger. Fantastic feeling action. So all the way around, it's going to be a satisfying experience. Now, for somebody like me that wears large to extra large gloves, I really appreciate having the little bit of extra handle length on the large. But I still find myself drawn to the small just a tiny bit more. And I think that's more of a personal thing, just because there are a few smaller knives that have come out in the past couple of years that I've really begun to enjoy, one of which being the EMP EDC Nimble. Let's give you a side-by-side comparison on the Nimble. So for the many thousands of you that own a Nimble, it is only ever so slightly larger. And as far as the way it holds in the hand, you're going to get a better feel in the hand than you did with the Nimble. You've got a little bit more so your pinky can drop onto it. It's a more positive flipper. The Nimble, you tend to reverse flick or thumb roll. The flipper is not quite as satisfying as a flipper only knife is. So there is a size comparison there. So if you like smaller size knives and you have something along the lines of a Nimble, that's going to be your comparison there. And let's give you a quick comparison on the large version. I'll bring out my knife, the Caladan. Many of you own the Kaladin, and I'm very, very happy and grateful that you have enjoyed it. And they are very, very, very close in almost every dimension. The overall length is nearly identical. The blade length is nearly identical. And the way they fit in the hand as far as how tall the handle is nearly identical. So if you love your Kaladin, I think that you're going to absolutely love the new larger size of the VBR. A lot of people have said that the Kaladin is pretty large. I don't see it that way. It's a long, useful blade, but I feel it's an overall compact package, and that's exactly how I would classify the larger size of the VBR. With the original VBRs, while I feel they've always been a wonderful balance and especially very, very comfortable in the way that they have softened the outer perimeter of the frame, I think that you're going to feel a little bit more confident with the large. You're going to have a little bit more to grip onto. This is almost like a Glock 17 compared to a Glock 19. Glock 19 is a fantastic size, but sometimes those of us with larger hands or chubbier hands might feel a bit cramped trying to get all 4 fingers on the grip. And that's kind of how the original VBR is, from where the flipper tab comes down as a finger guard. You're a little tiny bit cramped to get all 4 fingers on there. And with the new large, I feel like you can spread out a little bit more. It's not a dramatically larger size, but it's just long enough where you feel a little bit more spread out, a little bit more comfortable on that handle. As far as the small goes, as I showed you against the EMP, it's still a good size. I can get that 4th finger on there, but just like a Glock 19, you're going to be a little bit more cramped to get on there and get a full handhold. But for those that do prefer to buy smaller knives generally, you're already accustomed to how that's going to feel anyway. So that's neither a pro nor a con. It's just a simple observation. The way I look at it is, this is the perfect follow-up to the wildly successful VBR. You've got everything that made the VBR an absolute must-own knife, now in sizes that will satisfy everybody. If you needed that smaller size or needed that larger size, that's exactly what you're going to be getting. And as with all the previous VBRs, you've got a seamless construction between the scales and the bead-blasted titanium. Just fan-friggin-tastic. Perfect build quality as always, and a great value in my opinion, because knives like this generally come around for $75, $100 more, and people generally pay that gladly because they're getting a very solid knife with incredible fit and finish, with stellar actions, with great grinds and sharp blades. This, I feel, is a fantastic value, as the VBR has always been. So if you were looking for somebody to say, oh, you have to get this one or you have to get this one, I can't tell you that, because that's really going to be a personal choice in the size. For me, I could flip a coin and be perfectly happy with either size, but I just think that for whatever reason, I'm a little bit more attracted to the smaller version in that 3 1/4 inch blade. And 5 years ago, I probably would not have said that. I've only begun getting, I don't want to say accustomed to, I've only begun favoring smaller knives over the past 3 or 4 years. A few years back, I probably would have chosen the large very, very quickly and easily. And now it's a tougher choice. And I think they're both very well balanced for the new sizes that they are. The small upgrades like the pivot collar that give a little bit more of a classy and expensive look, I think is a great idea. And the fact that that'll be something that you can customize for yourself is also a great idea. Having the thumb studs added, just like the Mark III, is a fantastic idea. So all the way around, I think this is going to be another mad success for Mark. Congratulations to all of you that are going to be ordering these. When you pre-order it, the pre-order is already open. There's a link in the description. It is a direct link. It is not an affiliate link. I don't make anything if you click on it and go order one. You can pre-order now, and delivery is going to be in January, so January of 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next video.